In this tutorial, we're going to look at doing some basic transform tracking. So if we take a look at my clip here, I'll just random preview that real quick. You're going to see I have these cows and this little cowboy is going across the screen. And what we want to do is give this cowboy a little caption. It's kind of like moving along the screen with him. So what I've done so far is I've taken that clip, drug it down to the film strip icon, and that created this timeline. That's the same length as my clip. And then I'm going to go to Window and select Tracker, and the tracker then will pop down to the bottom right of my screen by default. With that layer selected, my little cowboy layer, or whatever my clip is that I'm going to track, I'm going to click on Track Motion, and you're going to see I have a track point that pops up on the screen. Now essentially, I have this outer box, and that's called kind of the search area. So when After Effects is tracking stuff, it's going to look for whatever you're tracking to be inside that area. The inner box is what I'm actually physically tracking. So we need the center box pretty much isolating whatever we are specifically tracking, and then depending on how fast that thing is moving, we'll have to adjust that search area. In our particular clip, the cowboy's hat offers a nice area of contrast between the white hat and the blue sky, so I'm going to take my track point and put that on the hat. And I'm going to make my search area pretty small, kind of rectangular around that. Cowboy's not moving very fast, so it shouldn't be too bad. Then we'll go down to the tracker and we'll look at some of the controls real quick. On the tracker, we can have multiple trackers per layer. For our instance, we only have one, so you'll see tracker 1. And there are several different types of tracking, from transform to stabilize to perspective corner pins, but for us, we just really need that transform. On that transform tracking, we have a few options. We have rotation and scale. For us, the cowboy's moving just right across the screen. He's moving up and down a little bit and left to right, so we're fine there with just the position tracker in the transform. So if I hit the little play looking button, that'll track forward, and then we'll go back, just dragging our little timeline marker back till we find a first good frame that we got of tracking data, and then we'll hit the little reverse play button, and that's going to play back and track the clip back to the beginning of the clip. Now what I like to do is apply my tracking data when I'm using transform data onto a null object. Well, null is just kind of something that will hold transform data so it doesn't mess up or tie up my particular layer. That way I could also attach multiple things to my tracking data. So after I have that null in place, the layer new null, I'll go to my tracker and say I want the data to apply to my null, and then we'll hit apply. And you'll see all the keyframes there are on position. Now all I need to do is go to my text tool, and we'll just type in a little piece of text. After I have the text typed in, I'm just going to position that to where I want it to be over the cowboy. We'll just kind of center it on his head here. And then down here in the timeline, I'm going to select that layer and look next to it, and we'll see a column that says parent. And then we'll select that null object. If you don't see parent, you can hit the toggle switches and modes. So you can see the text kind of stays with the cowboy, but here at the beginning and the end, when the cowboy leaves the screen, After Effects has nothing to track. So we need to kind of manually enter in some points. So I'm going to go to my null layer, and you'll see all those keyframes. We're going to find the first keyframe where the text is moving with that cowboy, and then delete all the previous keyframes because they're not doing anything. I'm going to go out back into time when the cowboy's off the screen, and then we're going to make a transform position point to where that text is off the screen. I'm going to do the same thing at the end. I'll go to the last keyframe where the text is moving with the cowboy, delete all the keyframes after that point, move the cowboy off the screen, and then I'm going to add a keyframe that has the text off the screen. Now it might take a couple tries here to play with that position keyframes that we just added, the one at the very beginning and the one at the very end, to get that timing just perfectly right. We'll preview here and see how I did. That's not so bad. I could probably spend just a little more time and kind of perfect that speed just a little bit better, but it's not too bad. So that's my tutorial on basic transform tracking.